Athletic identity is the degree to which an individual identifies with the athlete role and looks to others for acknowledgement of that role. By participating in a sport, an individual is making a social statement about who they are and how they want others to think of them.
Studies show that African American student athletes have a higher athletic identity than that of other student athletes.
Woo!
As a result of this, African American student athletes tend to feel more isolated from the rest of the student body. The effects of this can be seen in the way they often cluster into the same majors and the way they react when an injury affects their ability to compete. I'm part of the lacrosse team here at UT, and I interviewed some of my teammates, and we found that on average they have a lower athletic identity than some of the African American athletes that we interviewed on other sports.
Here is a photograph of the University of Texas lacrosse team. As you can see, the team is predominantly white. We viewed their responses to some of the athletic identity questions and discovered that their responses were overall neutral or slightly above neutral on a scale of 1 to 5 and 3 being neutral, meaning that they did not heavily define themselves by athletics, unlike some of the African American student athletes that we interviewed.
The first African American student athlete we interviewed was Adrian Colbert, a former University of Texas and University of Miami football player. We asked him for his take on athletic identity, and here are some of his responses. We first asked what his plans were for after his football career, and he said he wanted to go into broadcasting because sports is something that he has known his whole life, starting from the age of 5. He mentioned even when he wasn't playing football, he was running track. We also asked if people mainly see him as an athlete, and he said yes, because when you're black, you're usually seen as an athlete, even if you're not an athlete. That's just how it is. Lastly, we asked if he joined other organizations on campus, and he said no, mainly because he didn't want to be around people he didn't know. This supports the theory that a lot of student athletes feel isolated from the rest of the student body and tend to stick within the realm of sports.
We also interviewed a former Texas football player who asked to remain anonymous. We asked why he didn't join other organizations on campus or get otherwise involved after he said he had interests outside of football. This athlete's response was that he didn't have time because of football, was drained physically from football activities, and he didn't want to go alone. This was parallel to Adrian's experience, where he felt isolated from the rest of the school community. We also asked our Texas athlete about what his plans are after school. He said his top prospect is the NFL draft, and then he will also try out for the CFL. He also said he had offers from large companies to join the regular workforce. We found it telling that he chose to pursue a career in sport as his top and second choice, and only if those fail will he pursue the corporate career. This indicates that being involved with sport is very important to him, and he will stay involved for as long as possible.
We asked these athletes questions from the Athletic Identity Measurement Scale, also known as AIMS, and these were the questions that stuck out to us. On a scale of 1 to 10, both African American student athletes responded strongly. We concluded that this relates to a higher athletic identity when compared to white lacrosse athletes, who on average rated these questions much lower.
According to Racial and Athletic Identity at HBCUs and PWI, a journal article that we researched, student athletes who emphasize their identity as an athlete at the expense of their identity as a student experience negative outcomes. An elevated sense of athletic identity may undermine the college adjustment by decreasing commitment to an educational goal.
An oversalient athletic identity has been linked to negative outcomes such as academic disengagement and greater difficulty transitioning out of sport.
Student athletes with high athletic identity are more susceptible to identity foreclosure, meaning they tend to make a commitment to an identity role without exploring other role possibilities. We've had a couple of recommendations to avoid the negative consequences of high athletic identity, and we think that it's really important that if you have the opportunity to become friends with a student athlete, that you treat them like they're normal and don't just talk to them about sports, because I'm sure they want to talk about other things too. We'd love it if you could cheer them on when they get good grades in class and not just when they score for you on the field.